Hello. Welcome to another episode of the One-on-One podcast. My name is Josh Katz. I am joined by God, I can't even speak right now. I'm sorry, Kathy. I am joined by Kathy Baker, the most wonderful person in this company, arguably on this planet, and then as well, Ryan Esteban, who's
I'll take second place.
yeah,
I'll take second place.
he's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
He's a good guy most of the time. How are you two?
I'm great. Thanks for the shout out Saturday during the important game.
Yeah. Oh, I texted Kathy because I was watching the UNC game. That was a good game.
Oh, nice.
It got close for a second, but I was pretty confident for you. I'm not a UNC fan, but because I love Kathy, I was rooting for UNC.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you watch the game, Ryan?
I did not.
Oh,
It was exciting. I love this. Is just so everyone knows, this is my favorite time of year.
yes. I mean,
basketball at its best. Charles Barkley, who I've got the major crush on, back. I can see him a lot of times, but I love this time of year with NCAA ball.
I agree. I mean, I love Charles for the when I watch Charles on Inside the NBA or during March Madness, I take notes for when we do this because he's so good. He's so good at this.
Can we get by with some of the stuff he says?
I would love to, but
I'm not going to hold you guys back. It's not on me.
I mean, what would you rate this if you had to give this podcast a parental rating? What would you give it? Like PG, maybe PG. You think PG-13? Then yeah,
we've dropped a couple of swear words every now and then.
Yeah, I think so. Well, we have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot to learn about today, Kathy, because we're going to jump into a subject that I personally know absolutely nothing about. And we brought on a guest who's an expert. We've brought him into a specific role because he's such an expert on this. Adrian Provost, who is our broker owner from Realty ONE Group Terminus in Atlanta, Georgia, and also one of the newest members of our ONE.U coaching team. And he's our commercial real estate expert, coach, guru, whatever word you want to use. And we have him here today. So Adrian, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one because, I learn a lot on this podcast every single week, but this is a subject that I'm really excited to learn about. So if you actually see my laptop open and I'm taking notes and, 70% paying attention, that's why.
You know what I love about this, and what I love Adrian, especially because he's so modest and so humble. But I feel like, and this is not being disrespectful of general brokerage, real estate general brokerage, but I feel like, I've got a great. If we were physicians, I feel like I'm a great general practitioner.
Yeah. And
I feel like Adrian and commercial experts are those that have that extra degree where they've really studied a part of the business that a lot of general brokerage dabbles in, but few master. It takes a very special mindset and expertise to achieve the level of success that Adrian has. I want him to tell us a little bit about himself. I'm going to force him because he never brags on himself, and he is quite accomplished, and we are honored to have him not only in the network, but especially in ONE.U as a coach. So talk a little bit about your commercial background, some of your accomplishments, achievements. I want you to brag on yourself a little bit.
Sounds good. That's a little difficult for me to do, but I'll try my best. And again, it's an absolute honor to be a part of ONE University and Realty ONE Group as a whole. Again, you really just don't see what we have in this particular organization. You don't get that anywhere, so I'm legitimately honored to be a part of it. In regards to my background, it spans pretty long. I've been in the industry overall since 2010. I have a pretty substantial commercial specific background. I have traded all sorts of assets from, super high end luxury homes and sold out, new built neighborhoods. But again, my specialty has been in that world of commercial. And going back to what Kathy mentioned, I specialized in multifamily. So although I have sold everything from retail, industrial, self-storage, office, even hospitals and hotels, my specialty was multifamily, right? And I think that it's super important that you build a foundation. First, you need to know the fundamentals, right? But you build a foundation and you really position yourself as that expert. And you'll find that even in trying times like now, you're going to be able to really position yourself to win and win big. You know, there's a lot of opportunities that exist in the current state of the market, and it's not always like this. You know, and if you can have a different lens on it and really capture that moment by becoming an expert first and foremost, I think that you can really put yourself in a great position. But again, so I've done, and I don't want to name drop any specific companies, but I've built the multifamily department in Atlanta, or rebuilt for that matter, because the team before I got there got poached by one of the biggest organizations out. And for the largest investment sales organization that currently exists, I was actually the director for the multifamily division here in Atlanta. I've helped billion-dollar organizations that penetrated the real estate market here in Atlanta as well, bring their commercial division to market, as well as their sports and entertainment division. And a lot of you guys might know exactly who that is. But again, you know, so I've been able to see zero to significant growth across the board on various platforms as it relates to commercial. I've owned and operated thousands of units in regards to multifamily. I'm still an active investor in the commercial real estate space, specifically in Atlanta, but we do a lot of stuff in the Sun Belt in general. I've owned property management companies that, you know, spearheaded commercial specific assets. So again, I've been in the industry for quite some time, and I've learned a lot, had a lot of bumps and bruises, but I'm very appreciative of the entire experience, and to ultimately be here in Realty ONE Group. I think that we're going to be building an opportunity for commercial practitioners that is literally unlike anything else. You know, and you can tell by our residential department, right? That's who we are. As an entity. So I'm really looking forward to it. And obviously, as you mentioned, I'm one of the certified business coaches for ONE University. And again, I specialize in commercial training and development. So, and it's very practical in nature. Everything that I do, I hate the theoretical approach, right? So I want to make sure it's practical. It's things that you can take away now and implement in your business and start to see that growth and prosperity immediately.
Kathy, you want to start or you want me to go?
Before we get started, can we just get an overall state of commercial as far as where commercial is today? Because I read such sometimes conflicting things.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think a lot of that is by design, depending upon who's the person that's creating the rhetoric. You know, obviously, unfortunately, we're in a world that negativity sells a lot more than positive. Right. People are just super engaged with that sort of thing. But in the world of real estate, commercial real estate specifically, I think that, to be honest, we're in a really good position. Again, it's all about how you're looking at it. So what I'll do is I'll put the objective lens on it, and then I'll take those pieces and correlate that to what we can do as commercial practitioners to win some business. Right. So, for instance, cap rates are stabilizing finally. Which is huge because that's a significant driver into an asset's value. Now, there's a lot of different valuations, but just, you know, across the board, people are looking at cap rates and they're comparing it to interest rates, and we're seeing how those are connected, and we're identifying, is this a good deal for me or not, right? And so that's super significant. Now, something that isn't so positive is we have seen special servicing increase to above 7%. Right. And we haven't seen that in a few years. And what that's going to mean is ultimately a lot of owners of these assets are going to be in position to where they cannot make their mortgage payment. And so they're in special servicing. And now we're talking loan modifications. We're talking foreclosures. We're talking deed in lieu of foreclosure. So you'll see a lot of owners giving back these properties because they just cannot maintain a payment. Again, insert commercial practitioner that knows what they're doing. And that's a massive opportunity to win a lot of business, right? Same thing when it comes to loan maturity, right? We have never, like, we're literally breaking records across the board in CRE in various factors, right? So when it comes to loan maturity, we're going to be seeing more loans mature between now and 2028 than we have ever seen before, right? So we're talking $2 trillion, actually over $2 trillion worth of loans that are coming due before 2028, right? So again, as a commercial practitioner and as an expert in my craft, I understand that, an investor is going to be doing one of two things, right? Or one of three things. They're buying, they're holding, they're selling, right? And where are we in that process? And so right now we know they're going to have to dispose of these assets because we understand that interest rates are significantly higher than they were when they acquired those assets, right? And so if they considered refi as one of those options, that's pretty much going to be eliminated, right? You're not going to refi into the interest rate world that we're in right now. You're going to sell that thing. You're going to sell it for as much as you can get for it as soon as possible because you don't want to be stuck holding the bag when that loan comes due, right? And then, again, if you positioned yourself or if your strategy was to refi, cash out refi, again, that might not be an option for you at the moment because of the interest rates. And we're seeing a lot of, push from power players, if you will, that are trying to get in the ear of the Fed to say, hey, let's slow down some of these decreases in interest rates, right? Because they don't want to see a recession. And they think that it gets real complicated. So I'm gonna try to keep it super high level. But, the way that things can get manipulated when it comes to those interest rates are an immediate impact and indicator of what the world of commercial real estate is going to do. Right. And going back to your question about just the broad overview and what you're hearing in the news, a lot of people are creating this rhetoric, if you will, based off of office space. When we all know that office space is one asset of commercial real estate. Right. That's not the end all be all. So they're painting this broad stroke across the board of CRE say, hey, we're in turmoil. Things are horrible. And a lot of people are thinking the immediate solution, because we don't have enough affordable housing or homes that are just affordable in general. We're not talking about a particular price point, but just stuff that people can actually purchase. They're thinking, OK, we can convert these vacant office spaces into residential. I've done that in the past. And, we were working actively on some of those developments. They're hard. They're not easy. And it's not as easy as saying this is a great idea, let's make it happen. There's a lot of things that come into to making that a reality, right? So it sounds great in theory, but practicality doesn't really say that this is what we need to be doing with this particular asset, right? We need to make sure that it makes sense. And so again, a lot of people are thinking that, and again, that could be an option for a lot of assets, don't get me wrong, and that'd be great, but that's not always the case. But again, we need to dig deeper, because even when you go into the world of office space, for instance, right? So we're seeing these vacancy rates that are just, we've never seen anything like this before, right? So we're talking 20% vacancy across office buildings in US major cities, right? But the way that looks when you break it down is the older product, right? 10 years and older, 25% vacancy. And then that newer product, we're looking at about 11% vacancy or so, right? So again, there's a mix. There's always two sides to every coin. And, depending upon what lens you're looking at is going to really determine how you're viewing it overall, which as a practitioner and as a salesperson, I'm saying this is a phenomenal opportunity for me to go in and win some listings.
And you know what, the point you're making that I love, Adrian, is if there's a person out there, whether it's a consumer or a realtor, don't go to the general practitioner. If you're having a heart attack, go to the cardiologist. Don't go to the general practitioner that's a realtor, go to the commercial specialist, because you can get in trouble fast with a bad diagnosis.
100%. And you have to look at it. So one of the things that I coach and teach is we have to start with the foundations, right? The fundamentals. And you have to know why someone is investing in real estate. And it's going to be different for every person that you encounter. And so we have various tiers of investors, right? We have tier one, these REITs, right? The big boys, the life insurance companies, the people that own the massive sky rises behind me. Then you have the tier two, right? The professional investors, right? You have, I'm trying to give something that everybody can relate to, syndicators, right? Or developers, something that's they're not quite mom and pop, which is tier 3, right? That private investor. So you have various tiers. A mom and pop is going to look at an asset completely differently than a REIT, right? They're not playing in that same field, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so although some people may be able to get over, if you will, on some of those mom and pops, because you might know a little bit more about them, in real estate than they do, they might say, hey, I'll use this residential realtor for this because they know a little bit more than me. But when you really start to dig deep into it, you'll find that these people want to have someone who's actually a consultant, someone who's actually an advisor, right? Not somebody who they're teaching along the way. It's like, I should be learning in this process. I own the asset. You're supposed to be the expert. You're the specialist. And I think that a lot of that gets missed because a lot of people get opportunities, quote unquote, opportunities presented in front of them, and they think that they have to jump on it. And again, sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes it's not, if you're not really putting them in the best position to win. So I agree wholeheartedly. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be an expert. And that's not to say, again, this is coming from someone who traded nightclubs and restaurants, but I found my niche in multifamily assets, right? So that's not to say that I can't sell that stuff, but I wouldn't ever pretend that I'm an expert in it the same fashion that I am with multifamily, right? And people can appreciate that. And I find that we're in a phenomenal organization. So there's a lot of brain power across the board where we can help any individual get any asset sold. There's no question about that. But you have to really dig deep and decide, is this something that, am I doing what's in the best interest of my client by taking this on? Or am I just doing what's going to line my pockets the most? Potentially, right? And then even with that, you have to consider, how much time am I going to dedicate to this versus the time that I'm dedicating to my actual core business, and how much time is that going to take away from that, right? Because now you might lose out on 3 residential listings, for instance, because you were chasing this one commercial lease opportunity that you've never done before, or whatever the case may be. So again, you have to be really strategic and specific with how you approach it, and very, very intentional.
Kathy, I see why you recruited him for ONE.U.
Brilliant.
Adrian, you are not only an expert in your craft, but you're passionate about it. And you have the attitude where you're aware that this isn't the greatest time for the industry, but you keep using the word objective, and you are realizing that this is a time for me to re-strategize, change up my thought process, and figure out how I'm going to navigate this ship during this time, which makes for the perfect coach. And I know some of our network got to get a taste of this at Summit about a month ago. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts on your One Talk in person at Summit, and just kind of what our network can expect to hear from you in the future.
Absolutely. So Summit was phenomenal. So anybody that got a chance to go, I know you loved it. I mean, it's everything that we always do is just always world-class, second to none. So it was again, a great honor to be able to speak in front of everyone at Summit. And I hope that a lot of people took a lot of good takeaways from that. So again, what we really honed in on was the foundations and the fundamentals, right? Going back to understanding the overall goals and objectives of these investors, right? First off, you have to know who they are and why they're looking to buy, sell, hold, so on and so forth, right? But most importantly, once you know who these people are and you have them properly segmented into various tiers, you have to build a strong database, right? So it lives and dies with your database. That is the lifeblood of your business. And fortunately, again, being at Realty ONE Group, we have a phenomenal CRM system that you can utilize for both residential and commercial, right? So it's not like you learn a brand new system to be able to do it. If this is something that you're interested in, really jumping into, but that's where it starts. And you have to cultivate the database, right? And you want to be feeding it good information. Now, where the skew is, and I get a lot of questions about which tools to use specifically, right? And that is not something that I think any one source has really hammered home completely. I think that there's going to be various tools that you use because, again, you're a specialist, right? And what I mean by that is everybody knows CoStar and everybody thinks that commercial real estate lives and dies with CoStar. Again, as humbly as I can say this, any listing that I get, I can sell before it hits any marketing source, period. I literally have thousands of investors looking for these type of assets that are beating down my door. So I don't really have to market it. I can just send it to them and they know my reputation. They know it's a quality asset. They see the financials and I'm able to position it in front of them and we can get a deal done, right? And so CoStar isn't necessary for everyone. For some people in commercial real estate, it is absolutely necessary, but they have a ton of competitors now. They just have the most money to spend, right? They actually purchase homes.com. So you're seeing all of these, they're spending $1 billion alone on homes ads this year, right? So they can get in front of, I forget what they said, how many billion, 12 billion people they want to get in front of or something. I'm like, there's not even 12 billion people on earth, right? But but they have unlimited cash, right? And so they make people believe that they are the only source. And I have a love-hate relationship with CoStar, right? Again, it depends on what it is. Now, for me, as a multifamily practitioner, I use the Yardi Matrix, and I love that more than any other tool that I use, right? And so, again, it really depends upon what you're looking to accomplish. And so, fortunately, I have these great relationships, and I have a lot of people who realize how innovative I am and how innovative we are as an organization. So I'm building these relationships to where we're getting other tools available to us at discounted rates that no other organization is going to get. Right, like Intel CRE, for instance, right? So I'm working on a deal with them where all my coaching clients are already going to be grandfathered into it, but across the board for Realty ONE Group commercial practitioners. And that particular piece of technology, for instance, AI is a huge piece of it, but most importantly, it's almost like an underwriter, right? So as opposed to us having to pay for an analyst, right, you can still get the same underwriting capabilities. And you're literally just popping in numbers. So you don't have to become an expert, right? You don't have to go through what I went through to understand all of this stuff. You have that partnership. And again, I can assist to helping you understand what you're looking at, right? But again, so there's a lot of tools that work for some that doesn't work for others. And I had to really drive that home. It's that the tools are one thing, and tools come and go. You'll find stuff that's better. The biggest piece is the database. What does your database look like? How often are you, pumping good information into your database, and how often are you cultivating it, and are you sending them the right message, right? So that was something big. And then we also talked about the sales sequence, right? You have to know what you need to do. What does a sale look like, right? Some people call it a brokerage continuum, right? I call it a sales sequence. And it literally, from the research all the way into fielding offers and getting the agreement executed. Right. So there's literally step by step by step. And what we've done, we made it super simple. We've literally, for my coaching program, I've put it in step-by-step directions and exactly what correlates with what, and what you need in regards to resources and tools to be able to execute on it. So again, it was a lot of fun. I would do it every day if I could, to be honest. It's all about the mentality as well, right? So a lot of people look at our state of the industry overall and they get scared. And I'm like, I got into the business in 2010 at the bottom of the market when most of the people were getting out, right? Like I was literally at the bottom of the market. My first deal was like a $30-something thousand short sale, right? I mean, like $300. Right. And so it's like everybody was running away from the market. But I think that right now is a great opportunity to really position yourself to win a lot of business. But it starts with being an expert in commercial real estate for sure.
I think you make a great point. You started in 2010. Your perspective is vastly different than a lot of other people. You've seen, some pretty hard times. We're going through a shifting market right now. But you seem very unwavered by it. Do you agree, Kathy? And I think that, I know I already said this before, but that's such a sign of not only like a successful business person, but also a great coach.
Well, absolutely. And, we were referencing the NCAA tournament a little bit earlier. And what you're talking about is a strong offense, that rather than playing defense, and, just drive into the basket. And that's what, true leaders, Josh, in every market see opportunity in vulnerability.
Yeah.
And when a market is vulnerable, I was taking notes. I mean, just for clarity, you said trillion with a T.
Absolutely. It's $2.2 trillion loan maturity.
The maturity of that loan is unfathomable. And when you look at those loans, probably they were under 4%.
Yep.
And they're going to come back 6.
If we're lucky.
I mean, because I don't want to create fear. I want everybody to see, man, you're talking unmeasurable opportunity if you know what the heck you're doing.
Yep, 100%.
Josh, what do you think about
that? Say that one more time.
I said, what do you think about that? Because I have to tell you, commercial realtors, and this is a personal thing. This is not on behalf of all realtors. This is on behalf of Kathy Baker. They've always been so much smarter than me. I mean, they do math really well, and they do things like that. And it's when the moment I met Adrian, he knows this. I mean, I just have such adoration and such respect for commercial brokers because they see my business from a different window. I mean, we talked about what a gorgeous view that is, and as different as that view is from the window I'm looking out right now, his view of my industry is that different.
Yeah, I completely agree. For a while there, I was definitely just learning new words and phrases. But I will say that, Adrian, you talk about the commercial market in such a different way than what the rhetoric has, regardless of your political viewpoints, like just what people have been saying. But to your point, that's such an eye-opening thing to say, that they're only talking about office space, and that's not the only part of the commercial industry. And I want to take off my headphones and just now do more research. Like it's kind of just, it's opening up like a new part of this industry that I want to learn more about. So to your credit, Adrian, you're going to kick ass with ONE.U.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Adrian can be found in One Marketplace, also on ONE.U. Adrian, your coaching program, what I love about it is it's fluid with today's market, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but it's fluid with today's market. It's so relevant. It's not content from 10 years ago. It's what's happening now, and you can make it relevant to the market of whoever's subscribing to your program. You can make it relevant to the market they're operating in.
100%.
Yep. Well,
by design too. Yeah. We want to be as specific as possible so they can be as successful as possible.
Achieve great success faster.
Just had to get that in there, didn't you, Kathy? Adrian, thank you seriously so much for joining us. This was awesome. This was an educational experience for Kathy and I and Ryan. So thank you. We really appreciate it. And please, everyone, head to ONE.U. Sign up for our One Talk sessions. Email learning@realtyonegroup.com if you have any questions, concerns, just want to chat with Kathy and I. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Adrian, thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank y'all.
We thank you for joining us today on another episode of One on One, a Realty ONE Group podcast. We are powered by ONE.U and ask if you have suggestions, recommendations, or questions, please email learning@realtyonegroup.com. And remember, pay close attention to the details, listen to understand, not respond, and always be a resource, not a sales pitch.